Hi, Chris. We just got wires in the bank. What kind of feeling is that? Like, man, you've got money in the bank, deal is done, wrapped, sold. Tell me how you're feeling right now.
It's surreal. It's amazing. I mean, I had to refresh my bank account like multiple times, but yeah, no, once the wire hit, huge weight off my shoulder. Obviously, big lifetime changing funds coming in, and it's just kind of surreal, kind of on cloud nine. Been the past, ever since it hit the wire, hit the bank account, and it's been awesome.
That's awesome. And let's reel back in time when you were looking at selling. What was important to you when were you trying to figure out whether you wanted to sell your business, like and specifically like how you wanted to do it? Like you had to have had a process when you started thinking about selling. Like walk me through that process. What was it like for you?
Yeah, so it's funny because I actually had no idea what the hell I was doing, you know. I knew that there were a lot of these roll-up companies, private equity funds raising money to buy Amazon FBA businesses, and heard a lot of chatter about it. And for me, I thought like I never actually had the idea of selling be a realistic thought until I kind of got into the process. And the first thing I did was actually spoke with a former client of yours who I saw on Facebook post talking about experience, and asked him for your contact information. I just cold emailed you, I think, and that's just kind of how we got the ball rolling. I actually didn't even go into it saying, okay, I'm going to sell it this year. This is what we're going to do, and lay it out like that. So it was actually very kind of in the moment. I knew that I was interested in. I just wanted to kind of find out more information. And once I connected with you, it was like, oh shit, this is getting real. And just kind of the ball started rolling. Just kind of saw the amount of interest out there, and just kind of off to the races we went.
Yeah, you spoke with John Elder. He's
Yep.
one of our past clients. He's also he does consulting for people now that he's had his exit. He had a monster exit too. He actually
Yeah.
did a testimonial for us. He's on my YouTube channel. He's on the website Closer's website as well. For those of you that are watching this, I'll make sure to put a link to that in the description below. You can take a look at what John's experience was with us. So as a referral through, but you didn't really know John then, is that right? I thought you
I
guys had.
didn't. I saw him post about his exit on one of these Amazon Facebook groups, and I reached out because I was interested. And John was super helpful, like gave me all the contacts with you, attorneys, and stuff like that. So he was helping me along the way a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of cold emailed you. It was everything. It was just a cold Facebook message, right? So
Yeah.
everything kind of started from there.
Well, most of the important people I've met in my life, I've met online. Going
Yeah.
back to my first wife, girlfriend, business acquaintances, business partners. I am an internet being. I live and
Yeah.
breathe online. So those of you that are on Facebook, you can always reach out to me there, and LinkedIn. I'm all over the place, and I answer all of it myself too.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Just
I
got
got
slide in the DM.
we had 90 buyers express interest in your company within less than a week. If you tried to do this on your own, how do you think you would have handled dealing with that many buyers? And how would you have figured out who's good, who's bad, who's kicking tires? Like if you were to have just kind of gone through this yourself, because there's a lot of folks out there that they'll talk with me and they'll say like, Nate, why do I need to pay you a broker's commission? I can just do this on my own. If you had 90 people you were dealing with, what do you think you would have done?
Uh, First of all, 90 people just to keep track of and remember their names and stuff like that. That in itself is a feat. No, it's really that's where the value you guys come in with to be able to organize and filter out the very good buyers that you've had good experiences with. The cash buyers was a very important component of all, what I was looking for, right? And for me, if I was starting out fresh on my own, I think I knew maybe a handful of these kind of roll-up companies that were buying Amazon FBA businesses. And I would have reached out to them and see where I'd gone. But, that's where it's, I always related kind of having a real estate agent, right? Kind of be there to give you the access and the resources and the expertise to kind of walk you through the whole process A to Z. And you could definitely try to buy a house yourself, but you got to deal with your inspections, you got to deal with the due diligence, you got to deal with the contract and the paperwork, right? So all those things were resources that you would provide. Plus, you had this humongous network of buyers that were pre-vetted, that you've already had experience with, and that alone, and just kind of walking through the entire process and having you coordinate everything was just well worth the broker commission and then some. Plus, I always say that you guys were able to leverage that amount of interest into a higher price that, again, well worth that broker commission, in my opinion.
You hit the nail on the head. So from those 90 people, I had a process by which I had them to follow. I needed them to follow in order for us to go to stage 2, stage 3, etc. And from that, we got 5 offers, LOIs within 48 hours. Like, you had multiple offers. You had offers above the asking price. And, we got to cherry pick. So, that's kind of the process that, behind the scenes, I'm asking people, to validate that they've got funds. Do they have any real money or not? That's the first thing that wipes out, probably 2/3 of the buyers. Then I want to know, what's their plan? What's the synergy? What's the strategy with this? Like, how do they align? Is this if it's someone who's just looking for a financial situation, they're just trying to buy cash flow. Okay, we'll take their money. Right. But it's better if they have, something else that's going on. What other motivation is there? What can they do with this? Because oftentimes there's components in the structuring of the deal where some of the payment to you is deferred. And you need to know that your baby is going to be treated well, it's going to grow, and you're going to continue to collect the rest of that money. And there's some aggregators that haven't done so good with that. Right. A lot of rumbling with people that, after they've sold their business, they got that upfront, 70, 80% of their sales price in cash. And then that, 20, 30% they never got because the business went afterwards. Right. So that was an important thing for me to kind of understand, before I kind of, vetted and brought to you. So of those 90, I think we probably had like 7 or 8, maybe 9 phone calls. And of those 9 or 10 phone calls, we had 5 offers. You were able to pick, and then we had backups too in case something were to go wrong. So we had that as options as well. So that was kind of my thinking as we were going through it, and a little bit of behind the curtains. What does Nate the broker do to ease up 90 some odd phone calls? Because we do not want to have 90 phone calls.
Right. And that's something that, and I want to kind of go back to what something you said too, was a lot of these deals do have some sort of an earn-out component to it, where you are going to be working with them, or you're going to have to trust these guys to grow your business properly for you to realize those, that earn-out potential, right? So not only are you focusing on, and this is something I learned throughout the process, like, you want to partner with a team that, one, has the experience that you feel confident in, 2, that you trust, that they're going to be transparent, they're going to, take the baby that you worked on for the last, however many years, and take it to the next level. And then to also have them, just at the end of the day, you want to do business with people you like, right? People that you feel comfortable with, that you guys vibe with. So, that was a big learning lesson throughout this whole process, and meeting and interviewing all these potential buyers, was like, who checks those checklists off that checklist, right? Who checks all those boxes? And so that was a big learning lesson in our experience going through this as well.
Yeah, and if I could share, and I won't get into names or anything like that, we picked a buyer up front initially, and this is just my perspective. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I think the first buyer we picked was a little bit more of a financial windfall up front, but the vibe wasn't there, the connection, the energy wasn't there. The kind of our second buyer, the second offer that we liked, they ended up being the ones that we went back to and concluded the deal with. And I could tell just by the witnessing, watching, listening, observing on the calls that the energy between you and buyer number 2, who actually concluded the deal, it was like night and day, like above everybody else, like the synergy. And they were asking about the branding. They were sincerely interested in where the brand was going, as opposed to how much money did it make? Why did it lose money here? Or why didn't it make as much money here versus this one, which was more of a financial buyer that the first one was. So what do you
Yeah,
think?
no, exactly. Like, that's kind of what I was alluding to. The top price might not always necessarily be the best deal because of the earnout potential, because of again, just being aligned with the same vision for the brand. All those things combined, the highest top dollar might not be the best partner for you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to learn about their business, about their vision. You guys have to have that synergy on that call and make sure you guys are going to be good partners, because you're going to be potentially working with them for the next year or 2 years based on how your deal is structured. So again, huge learning lesson for us. It was very enlightening, and was thankfully had you kind of walk us through that whole process.
Yeah, it was my pleasure to guide you through that process. I've had the privilege of selling my own businesses and the utter frustration of shutting them down. So I've seen everything in between. I've bankrupted businesses and sold them. So I'm not shy about sharing my experiences. You even came to a mastermind I did where I brought in some buyers and brought yourself in and some other some founders of brands as well. And so you got
Yeah, that was awesome.
yeah, that was a special moment too. I appreciate you coming to that.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Okay, so back into the due diligence process, like to tell people, like, what do you have to do in due diligence, and then how did you see me helping as a broker, continuing to make sure the process didn't get off the tracks?
Yeah. So, the first thing you want to do is just have all your financials in order. Luckily, our books are really clean, but there's a lot of operators and business owners that unfortunately don't have that, right? I know that's where you have a lot of your work cut out for you, where you're just trying to clean up the books to make it presentable.
Yeah.
But the first thing was, putting all those financials, putting all of the product information, the business operations, all that into that offering package that you guys sent out to potential buyers. That was huge. And then once we got into the due diligence process, you're just kind of the liaison between me and the potential buyers. Financials, intellectual property information, social medias, different channels, things like that, just kind of gathering all that information. You're going to be doing a lot of just kind of going back to your records and just compiling everything you have to provide for them, so they can look at the financials, make sure that's verified with whatever the P&L statements or balance sheet is reflecting, things like that. So you're just having you kind of walk me through and making sure that all of these things were in order, making sure that the buyer is on top of what they're doing is a big thing, right? Because things get lost in their track. They're doing multiple deals at a time potentially. So having you kind of constantly, being on the ball, making sure that, hey, this is due. Are we good with this? And kind of moving on to the next step was definitely big, kind of helping the whole process go a lot faster and smoother.
Yep, I'm meticulous about setting up a weekly call and
Yeah.
sure everybody attends. And if someone's not attending, better be a damn good reason why, because I want to make sure there's no obstacles, there's nothing left unsaid, because bad news does not get better with time.
Right.
I've experienced that before in my past, and that's never fun. So we want to have open lines of communication. We want to understand any bottlenecks or or problems or potential problems, so we can get ahead of it. And I'm listening. I'm not the star of the show. All I'm doing is helping guide the process, but I am listening and waiting and observing. And if I hear stuff, because once you've done a bunch of deals, you start to hear there's a repetition of like where problems come up, and I start hearing like, okay, I know generally in the world of M&A, there's a couple of big potholes in due diligence, and I'm actively navigating the entire group, buyers, sellers, everybody around those well before we even get close to it. But sometimes a wind pushes us into the pothole anyways, and we have to deal with it. Yeah, it's really important to me to make sure that we've got an active weekly call and process that we're working through that. And that I have seen that momentum or lack of momentum kills deals. And I think you've experienced that too. In that first transaction, it got quiet on the buyer side for an unusually long period of time. and that was an indication of something going awry.
Yeah. I remember calling you. I was like, "Hey, haven't heard from them in a few weeks. I think they're having cold feet or whatever it may be," and ended up being the case. But yeah, it's keeping that momentum, and those weekly calls were keeping both sides accountable because you as a seller, you're still operating your business. They're, making other offers and doing other deals as well. So just to have that weekly call, just to kind of hold each other accountable was huge.
Yep. I see more and more often taxes being a consideration in the sales, in the exit. When should someone consider their tax planning?
Right now. I had to make we didn't do we didn't do a great job of tax planning from the very start. And so, when we were kind of in the thick of things and realizing that we were actually going to be selling our business, that's when we kind of kicked into high gear and made arrangements to minimize our tax liability as much as possible. But, being able to plan for that, being able to know what to do with the funds after you receive it, all those things you should be planning and talking to your CPAs and attorneys like right now, to make sure that your ducks in order, that there's going to be a less likelihood of red flags going on, things like that. So if you're thinking about selling right now, if you're even considering it, I would start with the tax planning right off the bat and then go from there. Because it could save you hundreds and thousands of dollars. And it's always the best to keep as much money of your own money as possible, right?
Absolutely. I can earn back my commission in tax planning too. There's only a few things that we can do as the clock rolls on and we get really close to the closing.
Right.
If you engage with, humbly, me early, I can help. I've got tax planners and tax advisors. There's ways to defer your capital gains, much like real estate. Real estate offers some really cool, 1031 tax deferred exchange. There's stuff like that too. There's opportunity zone funds. There's charitable remainder trusts. I've learned all about this. I'm not the expert, but I will put people in touch with the folks who do that. So if you've got a chunk of the transaction, that's the important part about engaging with me quickly, because if I look at the financials, I can see where you're going to trade in within 10 or 15%. Once we know what that amount is, then we have the conversation about, okay, well, how much of that is going to be in cash versus earnout or equity, et cetera. Okay, so of the cash amount, how much do you need to live on versus what do you want to defer for tax purposes? So it's a multi-step process that none of that, we can't get to it until we have the conversation. So I agree, you definitely want to get your tax planner quickly. But even before then, please, if you're watching this and you're thinking about selling, give me a call. I'll give you a free business valuation. We'll do a sales and strategy plan. There's no catch. I'm not asking for any compensation. This is what I do to build my network. If you later decide to list with me, happy to list with you. I'd be honored to guide you through the process. But if we do it this way, God, I can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes that are just going to go to Biden. So, give me a chance to work that part out. So I appreciate you saying the emphasis of it has got to be right now, because if we wait, then we lose a lot of opportunity. And I don't know about you, Chris, but 2022, I don't think taxes are going down.
Yeah, definitely not going down. So you want to, put yourself in the best position to, again, get as much of that as possible. And with the right tax planning, you can achieve that. There's only so much you can do, but there are options out there. And, that's a huge component of it. And that was a big learning lesson for me. Luckily, I was able to make the moves out of my situation in order to save on some of the taxes. So it all worked out for me in the end. But if I had to go back in time, I would have done this so much like before I even started listing it.
Yeah,
really,
for sure. No, that's exactly
you want to really.
That's exactly when we want to do it, because we usually have some time before the business gets listed. Now, you had a time frame you wanted me to hit, so I was pushing things along and moving that. But oftentimes, folks will contact me a year or two, and I'll be doing advisory for them for free, completely for free, until they're ready to get listed, and then they can make those moves, make those changes. And speaking of moves, I have had a number of clients in California move out of California, and that is a great recommendation. I would highly recommend people take a look at the states that have no state income tax, because that is a huge opportunity right there. If you can, if you have a nexus and family and all that other stuff, it's a little bit harder. But I have seen my clients uproot their families and move to Texas, Florida, Nevada, and they have saved themselves hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just by doing that.
One of the simplest things you can do right off the bat, right? And you don't really think about that if you're thinking about listing your business, but that's why having a call with someone like Nate, or CPA attorney, they can recommend that to you, so you're aware of that, and make the necessary moves if you choose to take advantage of that. But that's one of the easiest things you could do: move to another state with zero state income tax, right?
Yeah. If you want to make it really radical, you can move to Puerto Rico, where it's only
like me. Yeah.
Where I ended up going to.
Exactly.
So I live it and breathe it. That is the ultimate U.S. citizen tax shelter. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. People are moving there from all walks of life to shelter capital gains, and it's completely legit, 100% legal, approved by the IRS, by the Puerto Rico government as well. So there's a ton of information about that. Anyone that's watching that has any questions about that, you can feel free to let me know too. There's great resources on YouTube. In fact, there's resources that I even watch on YouTube about Puerto Rico and the tax planning and stuff there as well. If you were talking to somebody and were to recommend myself and Website Closers because they're thinking about selling their business, what would you say to them? What would you suggest for them?
Have a conversation, right? It's not going to hurt. Like you said, have that conversation right now. If you're thinking about it, if you just want to kind of test the waters, it doesn't cost you anything. Like you said, Nate, it's going to be free. You're going to advise them on whatever you can, right, to put them in the best position to get the maximum price, get the best partners, save on taxes, and get the deal done. So if you're watching this, if you're thinking about it, if you have e-commerce business, Amazon business, whatever it may be, software, just have the conversation. Hit up Nate. See what he can do for you, see how, they structure their deals, see how their network of buyers, that's not going to cost you a thing. Right. And that's something that, and Nate's can improve, why him and Website Closers are going to be the best option. That's the best thing I can say, right? Start having those conversations, talk to your CPAs, talk to your attorneys, start getting the ball rolling. And if you want to move forward, Nate can kind of walk you through that entire process A to Z, especially if this is the first business that you're selling, which I think, Nate, you handle a lot of business owners where it's like first time selling their business, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if it's your first time and you're going in it like I did without a clue of what to do, what to expect, how the process goes, Nate does a fantastic job of just kind of walking through the entire thing, really holding your hand throughout it all and guiding you where you need to go, reminding you of the pitfalls, telling you what to look out for, things like that. So it was again, just have that conversation, even if you're thinking about it, no obligation, right? And just kind of see where it goes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Chris. I know that's going to be valuable for the folks that are watching, and I appreciate your time. Don't spend it all in one place.
Gonna bet it on black here shortly and wish for the best. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe and tell me what you thought about it in the comments. Your comments encourage me to continue posting videos, and they give me ideas about what to post next. I read and reply to every single one. Also, if you own an online business and you're curious to how much it's worth, click the link below to get a free business valuation with a member of our team.